Well, police stats reveal that more than 54,000 crimes were reported against children between April the 1st, 2012 and the 31st of March, 2011. However, crimes against children are grossly underreported, and the real figures is believed to be much higher. Recently, there have been 2 cases of children held for captive for years by their fathers. We're now joined by Noreen Huni. She's the Chief Executive Officer at the Regional Psychosocial Support Initiative, to tell us how we can get society as we can deal with these issues of crimes against children. Very good morning, Noreen. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
And morning to the viewers too.
Just explain to us what the Regional Psychosocial Support Initiative actually do.
We focus on the emotional and social well-being of children. And we are saying beyond material support, beyond physical support, we need to start ensuring that we love the children, we care for them, and we protect them. And we do that by identifying organizations that are working with children. Say if someone is in early childhood development, if someone is in education. Do, for instance, the teachers know the value of embracing children, of protecting children and supporting them. So that's our main agenda as REPSSI. And we work with government, we work with UN, we also work with civil society organizations, and we're working in 13 countries in East and Southern Africa, our headquarters being based in South Africa.
So what sort of work are you doing on the ground, and where is your work being done?
In 13 countries, like I said, in South Africa, for instance, we're working with the Department of Social Development. We do have a program where in KwaZulu-Natal, which is working with community care workers, helping them to begin to understand the value of embracing children, the value of supporting children and protecting them. Besides that, we also work with other organizations like Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. We work with Africa Tikkun. We're also trying to influence the police as much as possible so that we all know that children need to be protected and children need to be valued. This week specifically, we have been trying to work with media as much as possible to bring and elevate the awareness around child protection, because this is Child Protection Week. And we're specifically saying child protection is a child's right. It is not something nice to do, but it must be done. And we're looking at child protection beginning with supporting the child themselves. Before the child is born, how do we support the parents to relate with their children? At the time of birth, how are we supporting the parents to begin to relate with the child? And soon after, onwards up to the child, when the child is 16 years, 18 years and above. So basically, we work with government, civil society, and UN agencies.
You've raised so many issues, important issues there. You've raised the issues of parents, you've raised the issue of police, you've raised the issue of teachers. I want to go into those individually. The role that the police play is a crucial one in terms of protecting. I mean, we currently covering 3 stories in our bulletin today with regards to what seems like child abuse. The police obviously need to take possibly a firmer stance on this.
Sure. I've read those stories with a lot of concern. Actually, when you begin to analyze them, it's a complex issue. It's an issue that issues that are pointing down to our own upbringing as adults today. What is our role as adults and our orientation as adults, and how it impacts on how we look up after children? What is the role of the police in this specific incidents? Whilst the police could be able to protect, but we need to take a step back. If you look at that parent, for instance, the parent who locked up the children for so many years, what are the real issues that are going on in those parents' mind? What are the belief values that they have, right? And what happened in that circumstance is because they have a protective community, which have individuals who are still having that value of your child is my child. And they were the ones who rose up to provide a report. And so the police can never work in isolation. The police can only be effective if they're working with us as the adult world, if they're working with the communities, and if they're working with the families. Particularly if you look at the family and the communities around, they are usually, the family in our context is the first prime care of support and care for the children. But if the family is failing, we also need to take a step back. Why is this particular family failing? What is not right? Is it an economic challenge that they have? Is it a lack of social orientation? Is it a religious? Is it a cultural belief? So we need to be able to look at this. So it goes back to supporting parents and parents to be effective parents. When this had happened, surely these parents are coming from a community somewhere. They just disappear. They were walking around and going to the shops and leaving the children locked. That's the severity form of neglect and abuse that anyone can ever do. And by the way, besides the physical abuse that the children may have incurred, for us, most concern is the psychological burden and trauma that these children will have probably for the rest of their lives.
One can't even imagine. I mean, to be locked up in your house for 8 years. Anyway, as you said, I think there's a lot of social issues there. I mean, a lot of psychological issues there.
It's a challenge.
And those, I mean, no one can ever prepare you to be a parent. No. I'm a parent. No one can ever prepare you. But I guess it's the way that you deal with it that one needs to, you're dealing with other people's lives, children's lives, which make it so important. I do want to touch on the issue of teachers. We're also covering the story of racism in schools. What our teachers are teaching our children is so important.
Again, I always want to believe that child protection is more effective in a system. One, what are those teachers still dealing with which has not been addressed? You know, for one to be able to stand in and say whatever they are saying, what haven't been addressed in them as an individual? What are they dealing with? And secondly, the teachers, most teachers are taught to teach. High mathematical achievements, that's the intellectual measurement which is done. The teachers have not been prepared to support the children, to embrace the children beyond 1 + 1 = 2. So in Zambia, for instance, we've started a program where we are talking about a psychosocial diploma for teachers, where the teachers begin to understand the circumstances in which each individual child is coming from and support the children from their own internal capacities that they have. Begin from that process and understand the background where the children is coming from and support the children to realize their full potential. So my point there is the teachers need support. The school education system needs support. The previous make was talking about quality of education. Quality of education, it also brings in the appropriate capacities among the teachers themselves and the whole education system as a complete system.